Good evening and a very warm welcome to our viewers to the second session of Penmancy Pen Connect, which is our endeavor to help bring authors and readers closer. In the previous session, we had Anirban Bhattacharya, and today we have with us Vani. Vani is an international writer, journalist, columnist, and art curator. She took a plunge into the world of fiction writing after working as a business journalist for leading newspapers like the Times of India and the Financial Express. After exploring non-fiction and then romance, she now explores the other side of fame in her latest romantic thriller, Seconds Later. Welcome to Penmancy, Vani. We are absolutely delighted to have you as our special guest tonight.
Thank you so much, Chandra. It is. Thank you for this opportunity. I am so excited. I can barely hold myself in this chair, I can jump right out.
We are equally excited. All right. Vani, before we begin our session, I would like to thank you on behalf of the entire Penmancy family for sponsoring your book as a prize for our monthly writing contest for the month of February. 3 of our writers were the lucky recipients of this amazing thriller. Could you please tell us a bit more about your book, Seconds Later?
Yes, thank you so much, Chandra. First of all, I want to thank you. I want to thank the entire team at Penmancy and Kajal for giving me this opportunity. When she called me up about this giveaway, I was so excited because you all are a global platform of readers and writers, and you're helping people craft their ideas into stories, and you're doing so much, really. So when she asked me, that we are having this contest, and would you like to give away a few copies of your book, I was really excited, and I really do hope there are 3 winners of this contest, and I
Yes.
really do hope they all like the book. And the book is about fame, like you rightly mentioned. It sort of gives you, it sort of explores the other side of fame. And I was led into writing this story after a few experiences of my own. So growing up, all I ever wanted was to be famous. And like most of us, we have teens around us. They are clicking nice pictures, and they have so many thousands of followers on these social media platforms. Everybody wants to be famous, but I wanted to understand. I wanted people to understand that there's this other side of fame which nobody talks about. So this
Right.
happened that, after the first book came out, I was very new to many social media platforms, and people started tagging me in their obscene posts on Facebook, and
Oh.
I started getting marriage proposals on Instagram and all. That
Oh,
sort of led me to this thing that maybe there's not everything that's rosy about this about being famous and being out there, because you are out there, you are projecting your best self, but you don't know how people are perceiving you, and
absolutely.
what their intentions are when they say hi to you or they send you a message. Sometimes you're just conversing with a person, and he or she might be recording your conversation, and that might be played out at a later date or something, or they might
True.
take screenshots of your what you're telling them, in a private conversation, and that might be played out. So you don't know what intentions people come from.
Exactly.
And this is what exactly I was trying to explore when I was writing this novel, and I've done it through the eyes of my protagonist is a 19-year-old girl, and that
Right.
made the whole thing interesting because at 19 you see this world and you want to be something, you want to be noticed by people, and you don't know how to protect yourself. It is not
Definitely.
what it looks like, not everything. And it was very interesting to write Nikita's story. So this is what my novel is all about. What happens to this girl when she is introduced to fame, and what happens, like, you know, this. I mean, I would love to know from you, because you've read the novel, and
Yes,
I would
yes.
love to know from you what all
I mean,
your feelings were when you were reading it.
see, you already know how much I've loved the book, but for the benefit of our viewers, let me tell you, it's an amazing book. And today, this moment is in fact, a fangirl moment for me. I have so many questions for Vani, but then I have to serve the purpose of this discussion this evening. But as a fan, I know some inside details that I would like to share with the viewers. Uh, any guesses on how many years Vani spent on this baby project of hers? I'm sure our viewers would be surprised to know it has taken her 5 years to bring Nikita D to life. And it's so fascinating, Vani, to spend 5 years working on the same project despite the rejections that you faced in this journey. Kudos to you, yaar. Amazing, amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much. But in the end, it's all been so well worth it, because the appreciation I'm getting from everywhere, and people have connected with the story so well, and
Yes.
the good words, like that makes me feel like, okay, you know what, that was job well done, and I'm just so happy with the response that I'm getting from
No,
everybody, from men, from women, from youngsters. I have teens coming up to me and telling me that they couldn't sleep because they were like midway in the book, and they just couldn't put it down. It's like, oh my God, this is what I worked for. I wanted to create something that wouldn't let you sleep. You
I
have
can
to read.
totally relate to this. I am the mom of two teens, so I see the kind of pressure the kids have these days, that craving for fame, and you have brought it out beautifully in Nikita's character. It's wonderfully done. In
Thanks.
fact, I was swept off my feet by the plot line and the pace of narrative. It's so good, which leads me to the first question, which we are
Mhm.
discussing tonight regarding subplotting in thrillers. We know subplots play an important role in bolstering the narrative, be it a thriller, romance, or a suspense. But then there are some writers who believe that a subplot is a misnomer, and a good story should stand on its own without any subplots. What are your views on this?
Okay, Chandra, thank you so much. Yes, we have to come down to the theme. But before we I take up that question of yours, let me
Sure.
tell you that I started my career as a journalist. So I
Yes.
did not go to a creative writing school to learn anything about what is a plot and how do you get down to writing a good plot or characters or setting or anything. I just had to, I just went out there, had to, get my hands dirty, go through a lot of rejections. Then I had to understand, okay, this is what makes sense, and this does not make sense. So when I say something, I'm saying everything what I have experienced in my journey. So I'm 3 books old now, and this is what I feel. Okay, so there is a main plot in
Right.
that you have the main plot of the story, and then I believe that at least in this story, I needed the subplots to support my main plot, and I
Mm-hmm.
believe that yeah, and I believe that everything that a subplot has should support the main plot. It should not
Right.
overpower it. But for me, it was very essential. There are many characters in my novel, and each character has goes through his or her own development all through the novel.
Right.
Now, their story is just as important as Nikita's story. So, when Nikita's story is all about fame and the other side of fame, which is the main plot and what she realizes at the end of the novel. But there are a lot of supporting characters, and they needed to have their own storyline going, which added meat and a lot of juice to the whole story. So, I mean, it's up to you, whatever very important to show that each character is growing as my
Uh-huh.
story is growing, as my main protagonist is growing, and that's what I feel. So yeah, I think you need a good, not one good subplot. My story actually has many subplots
Many.
because there are
Yes.
many characters. There are at least 3 4 main characters, and I wanted my reader to see where they are coming from, why they are behaving the way they are behaving, and them, for the reader to know this huge world where Nikita is living and what sort of people surround her. And so
Uh-huh.
to give them a really good big perspective of the whole thing, so that when the story ends, they understand, it's not like a slap on the cheek, and they actually can see where this ending is coming from. So
Right.
if
Actually,
I
there is,
get that.
I really love the way you have tied the different stories together. They all have such a cohesiveness about them, and it comes out so beautifully in the end. There is not a single character who feels, who is not needed in the story. Everybody is equally important. So, how did you, plan these subplots? I mean, like, did you outline them or in your draft, or it just came as you went along?
So you might be knowing that there are two ways in which you can write a story. One is you create a complete storyboard. You have
Right.
exactly, know where all the character, what all the character would do or say or act. You plot it completely, and then you sort of fit in the dialogues and all that stuff. For me, I'm not that sort of a person. I have a broad idea as to how the story would progress,
Uh huh.
but I leave the specifics to that moment, and whatever the character wants to do, I just go in his or her direction as long as the story is moving forward. And for me, what was most important was, however, that everything in the subplot adds up to the main plot of the story. So if in the subplot there is, let's say, there is somebody's cooking something, or somebody is visiting a certain place, or somebody is dressing up in a certain way, or there's a setting of a bank, or there's a
Mm-hmm.
setting of a museum or some pub or bar, and these things are there in, everything has to add to the subplot, and everything eventually has to add to the main plot. Nothing in 60,000 words, in that's as many words as my novel is, the words of my novel. I
All right.
wanted dialogue, each word, each setting, each environment to make sense and lead up to something. So that's what you have to be extremely mindful of. Otherwise, I've read such novels as well where there's a lot of filler work that happens. Oh,
Correct.
the characters are just, cooking and just having random conversations which do not,
Right.
and there are pages upon pages of these random conversations which do not make any sense. For example, we've all read and loved 50 Shades of Grey. Now, the first book is very good, but the second book is just a repetition. There's a lot of repetition of the sex scenes and the same sort of settings. He takes her to his expensive house or whatever, and they're just doing the same routine. So it's just sort of, I mean, I don't know whether that's a good example to give or not, but you get it. Because it's just that, if you're doing the same thing and you're just repeating the same thing, doesn't really sit
Correct.
well
It
overall.
has to add value to our reader, right? There's no
Yes.
point taking them for granted and giving them stuff they did not, I mean, they're not going to really enjoy reading.
Yes. And
So,
that's how you create a page turner.
right, exactly. And that's what your book is.
Yes. Yes. That was very deliberate. So it just comes to me. I've been saying this, so I might sound like a broken record, but for some people, who've been listening to me say this again and again, but creative energy is a very special energy. I was just telling this in another one of my videos also that I had last week, that
Uh huh.
you have to allow it to flow, and you have to just keep writing, see where these characters are leading you to. And there are a couple of scenes that even I was scared when I was writing them. Like, there are a couple of encounters in the book. I was also
Right.
scared, like, you really want me to go that way? And, I'm getting those conflicts there in the subplot. And then I'm like, yes, I have to write this. I don't know, this is very difficult, but I have to write this, and I have to get my characters out of that scene as well somehow. I don't know. Yeah.
But I guess this is where you have really separated you, your persona, your personality from the narrator, from the author, right? Because looking at you, talking to you, I cannot imagine such dark thoughts running behind that face of yours.
Yeah, the thing is that the first draft of the novel, Chandra, was way more darker. There was
Oh,
no empathy for some of the characters. It was way more darker. But the good thing that happened with me was my novel got rejected the first time by a lot of publishers. And when I sat down to revise it, I created a lot of empathy for certain characters, which worked well. The second one was I brought the tone down a bit, so it's not as dark now, because there are not many swear words, and it's not very dark. The first version was very dark, so yeah, I am a very easygoing person. I like light-hearted stuff, and I don't use swear words at all. I don't drink. I don't smoke. Some of my characters that way are really dark, but the thing is, I wanted to create very relatable characters, and I
right, right.
think you would be able to relate whether there's a Ali or a Samir or Cyrus. You would be able to relate to those characters. Those people are around us.
Correct, correct. Exactly. So you've really created real characters. But my question is regarding the inclusion of romance. Was it challenging to include romance as a subplot in a thriller?
No, romance was very I think I have shown romance in two, three ways. There is the unrequited love that is there,
Right,
because that's where the story starts from, and then there is the toxic love. That's Ali, very toxic and all.
right,
Then there is also some codependency sort of love that is there from Ali's wife, probably, who's like, who doesn't have any so I think this is all done to create some drama, to create some emotion in the story. Otherwise, how will you really? Otherwise, it will just without any emotion, a story will just fall flat. If you
correct.
cannot,
It's just a
I
series of
want to.
events you're narrating.
Yes. So now, when you evoke anger for a certain character, when you evoke love and you evoke passion and lust and desire, I think these are all ways in which you are actually stirring those emotions in your reader. It's like, okay, you know what? That's what she or he holds for that person. So maybe the reader also starts having some emotion, so maybe,
Exactly.
maybe because Cyrus loves Nikita, so maybe the reader will also end up loving Nikita for the things that Cyrus loves Nikita. So it's just a way to evoke your emotions and all. I was just trying to play with all the emotions I could play with.
Very interesting, very interesting.
And
So, Vani, how did you decide that how many subplots your story should have? Was there any point at which you were thinking that no, this is too many subplots, I should reduce or increase them?
No, Chandra. The thing is that there was this main plot that the protagonist, there's the main plot that the whole novel has. And then
Yeah,
I think, you can have as many subplots as you can decently carry across those 200, 300 pages, whatever. So I have read bigger, thicker novels in which there are so many subplots, like at the end of the novel, you are like literally. But for me, I wanted to keep it clean, just as many as I can handle. And the
right.
second thing was it has to all have a beginning, a middle, and an end. So as long as the main structure was there, I think, and with each character. So Ali has this thing, and there's a subplot for every character in the book. As long as
Right.
I got it, I knew I could put it nicely together. I think that was fine. I did not want to overcomplicate my story, because sometimes if you're not skilled at it, you may actually drive the reader crazy with all your subplot and all the complication that you try to put to make the novel more juicy and all that. I didn't want to do that. I'm a very clutter-free person. I don't even have WhatsApp for that reason. So
I
I
know that
wanted to
now.
keep the novel also very clutter-free, so that you can easily understand what's going on.
Right, right. Because, sometimes when we are writing stories, we end up having so many subplots, and in the end, if they're not tied together, they just come off as different stories happening at different paces, at different timelines. So here, as I already have mentioned it, but I just can't stop mentioning it again. I love the way you have, tied all the subplots together, and that's the reason why we wanted to discuss it further with you to understand, so that we at Penmancy have many writers who write amazing thriller stories. So this is going to help all of us write even better stories.
Yeah. So for me, I think the only thing, which so when you were saying that, people do tend to write a lot extra, I think as a
Right.
writer, what you should also be prepared to do is to delete what is not serving the purpose of the novel. So you
Correct.
might have a lot of extra scenes, and some people might end up writing like 10,000, 20,000 words, and have the courage to delete what's not working for you, because sometimes it's not meant to go into the novel, but what it's meant for is to enhance your own understanding of the characters. This is why this person is the way he or she is. It's just leave it at that. Just delete the whole thing. Maybe
Right.
if there is a second book two or a book three, you might bring in
Yes.
those things. People have done that.
Right. It really, holds the reader's interest.
Yes, yes.
So
And
apart
also,
from,
you should.
yes,
No,
please
no,
carry
no.
on.
Go on. No, no, go on, go on. Nothing.
No, no. So I was just wondering, you mentioned that every subplot needs to have the entire story arc. So, apart from that, as a writer, is there any other technicality that I must be aware of and keep in mind while I'm plotting my subplots?
have see I think where people sort of fail is, you could actually, there are many ways to fail, they say, so you could have an excellent plot, but if you have very dull and drab characters, then
Mm-hmm.
the story will just it'll not sit well. You have to have your well rounded characters. If you have noticed, what I was also very mindful of was, when I was plotting and when I was writing the subplots as well, that each character is very deeply flawed, and that's what
Right.
makes them very human. So for instance, when I was writing about Samir's mother, who's not even a part of the novel, but
Correct.
she is, like, he describes her as a mannequin, and he's like, she's all plastic from top to bottom. And for once, maybe the reader might think, oh God, why is he objectifying his mother? But then later on, you come to know why, the reason behind that. So for
Yes.
me, that whole thing about, I'm just giving one example to you, because Samir's is one subplot that is there, that is a main one in the novel. And for me, it was very important to to have very well-rounded characters to carry these subplots. His father has his own flaws. Similar is
Right.
the case with, you noticed, Cyrus and his family. He has
Right.
parents who are always fighting with each other in a very crazy sort of a way. So writing that, and then what it has done to this boy, and how eventually they sort of uh, whatever happens later, why it happens, because the parents, one parent cannot see properly because she is like so old, and she so somebody comes to her house and just, crushes the spectacles. So that is one thing, that whenever you write characters, give them enough flaws, but not too many as well, just as many
Right.
as are needed for the purpose of the book. And second thing is, pace your novel. Like, for me, pacing is so important. Every word, every paragraph for me has to drive the story forward. If the engine of the story is not good, you cannot write a thriller or a page
Absolutely.
turning book.
Absolutely.
So these are the two things. And then, of course, I'm very mindful of the setting as well. Is the setting telling me anything unique about the character? Is this adding to the whole story? How is this even important for the purpose of the story? So all that was very important for me. Is
Yeah.
very
And you are
important.
taking the readers across different locations, India and abroad.
And all of those locations where I have not seen those locations. Of course, London,
Oh, really?
I stayed in London for many years. But aside that, I have not been to Mumbai just twice, and never to all those locations I write about. I have never met Parsi people. So this character was based on Cyrus Brocha, who was so kind as to interview me and for his show and many other things. I have not worked as a TV presenter or anything of that sort. So I had to do, I don't play football. So I had to do a
Uh-huh.
lot of research for all, writing all
Research.
these characters. Yes,
Right, right.
yes.
Since we are on the topic of characters, I just want to explore it a bit more. We
Uh-huh.
have too many characters here, right? We have Nikki, who's a central character. Then we have Cyrus, Samir, Ali, their parents, spouses, and so many. So, how did you balance the narrative? Was was there a struggle to balance the narrative between the central character and the secondary ones? How did you ensure, that you maintain their goals without diluting it?
For me, it is very important that I read a lot of books. For me, it's very important that any character that's written about, it forms a first impression in my mind. There's
Uh-huh.
something that is not wrong or absolutely right with that character for me to remember him or her through the 200 pages of the novel that I'm going to read. And I try and give them a voice of their own. So, for instance, a
Right.
person who comes to my house to, एक दूध वाला भी आता है, तो I know that he's got a different voice. So what happens is that normally writers, what they do is they create these secondary characters, but they create far too many, and they start
Right.
describing every character in detail, the dress that person is wearing, the bindi or the specs and all. I do not go into those details. Just describe as much as is necessary. Make that person speak as much as it is necessary for the other person to register him or her, and then just end it there. And create very powerful voices. Like if you think that the person next door does not have an individual voice, don't bring that person in. That person just doesn't need to go into the novel. Have very powerful voices. So I work a lot on creating voices of my secondary characters as well when I'm writing. So
So,
that
when you
for
are
that,
doing that task of, creating their voices in your notebook or journal, however you go about it, do you also have a lot of extra information that you come up with?
I might, yes. I tend to delete a lot of stuff. But what happens is that I when once I get into that zone, it's I know it's a bit hard to explain. It's like once I get into the zone, the voice just comes flowing. Sometimes it's like I might just write 5 pages or 10 pages without even thinking what's going on, and it just
Wow.
flows and flows. And so many times, I struggle with writing even a paragraph for like a month and a half. And of course, I cannot explain it to anybody what's going on. But I just somehow yeah, it is both ways. So yeah, and I delete a lot of stuff as well.
Uh
So
huh.
sometimes yeah, a lot of nonsensical stuff. But whenever I'm writing voices, whenever
Mm-hmm.
so how do you give voice to a character is by the speech, by the words that person says. Whenever I'm doing that, so if you've noticed, Cyrus has a different way of speaking. I make sure that when this character comes into the room, the reader is able to recognize, this is the person that's speaking, so this is how
Right.
he or she is going to speak. So that's what was my main motive when I wrote these Parsi characters, or this guy from London and he's so sophisticated, and yeah, so giving them dialogues that belong to them, that will come out of their mouth. Yes.
Right. But at any point, was there a concern that you were worried about one character, overpowering the other?
No, that wasn't there. Because I mean, it's just my this thing. Even my secondary characters were just as dear to me somehow. I had the most fun writing Samir, because
Uh huh.
his was the voice that came to me, and I can still hear his voice in my head. So he was dear to me, and he's a very flawed character. Same is the case with Cyrus, and same is the case with Nikita. So
Right.
all of them are very dear to me, and I did not. So this is something that I try to do. I try to balance out their narratives so that Nikki's narrative is the main because she's the protagonist of the novel, and
Correct.
others should not overpower her story, but balance her story and support her as much as possible because her story is the main plot, and
Exactly.
that should be
She's
disturbed
our
by
main
movies.
protagonist, and there's no way that her story should be over empowered by anybody. But then, for me as a writer, if I'm writing something like this, how do I ensure that none of the subplots, take away from the main narration? They do not confuse the reader. Is there any tip that you would like to share with us?
I think at all points in time, number one is revising. I think I used to in these 5 years. Why it took 5 years was not because I was really, like I said, I'm not a trained writer. I did not go to
Right.
a creative writing school or a program. So what I have is like I have my own internal compass guiding me because you're the first reader of the novel. You're the first
Correct.
reader of the book, and you're also writing it. So if it is not sitting well with you as the first reader, I don't think it's going to sit well with the eventual reader as well. That's number one. And number two is just remember that you have, just remember who your main protagonist is. And at all
Mm-hmm.
points of time, everything that happens in the story is a padding for that main story which goes
Main.
on.
Right.
Yeah, and you can actually have like a thick padding or a thin padding. It's really so you have stories like Game of Thrones, which is like 8 or 9 they're like tomes. They are like really huge. You
Right.
have this main story which is going on, and you have a lot of padding. There are so many worlds created around that. So many places where the story takes place, but that main storyline still goes on. So it's all a tough balancing act. You have to keep going back and forth, reading, revising, deleting, editing, a lot to come down to that main story. I think that's all what writers do when we sit in our rooms,
Correct.
doors closed. That's what we do all the time. And then I've heard people say, Vani, writing is not hard work, and I'm like, God, at the like end of the day, I'm so exhausted. I cannot just look at anybody. I'm really exhausted, and I know you would know because you're writing yourself.
Yeah, I
It,
know.
it
It
is tough.
is not somebody a non-writer would really get. They're like, "हाँ लिखते
Yes.
हो? What's the big deal?" So it's
So
not
what's the
tough.
big deal? Oh, and like somebody has said, I think it's Maya Angelou, but I'm not too sure. Somebody has said good writing is really tough. Somebody has said that. So good writing is not easy. You can do trashy writing. That's easy. But good writing that it makes sense to you is like really tough.
Vani,
Yeah.
we are almost at the end of the session, but
Yeah.
before we wind up, I would be throwing open the floor to our viewers for their questions. Now, before we even get there, I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions, and you have to answer what comes first to your mind.
Yeah,
All
sure.
right. Our viewers, you can be ready with your questions. I'll just highlight them after this. All right, Vani, first question. What do you prefer, thriller or romance?
Thriller.
Faster, okay? इतना सोचने का time नहीं है.
Thriller.
All right.
Thriller. Thriller.
Okay. So, which role is a hit with you? Vani the columnist or Vani the author?
Vani the author.
Uh huh. All right. That's good luck for all of us readers out here. Which role fits you best? Vani the fiction writer or Vani the non fiction writer?
Vani the writer. I
Ah,
love both. I love nonfiction and fiction both.
is it?
Yeah.
It's do you find it difficult, to change the mood and the tone and the way you're writing between fiction and non-fiction? Do you find it a struggle?
See, it's challenging. If I would say, so the difference is for fiction, because a lot is coming out of your imagination, you have to
Right.
stretch your mind in all directions possible. So it's a lot of stretching and expanding. and you have to create everything from your imagination. Of course, you can write from your experiences also. That's also one way you can do it. For non-fiction, things are not as you can actually, it could come like it could be a bit more structured, because let's say if you are somebody who's a doctor who's writing
Right.
about some techniques for a backache pain or something, so things are pretty much structured for you, and you don't need to use your imagination. Things are there laid out for you. But I would say both are very challenging, and I love both. I love writing. So it's the only thing that probably I did not enjoy as much was journalistic writing, because it was
Uh-huh.
very new, and I was just given like 300 to 500 words in which I had to just finish my article. So that wasn't creatively very satisfying. That's the only thing I did not enjoy. Fiction and non-fiction, I don't have a problem. I enjoy both. In fact, Sandra, my next book is non-fiction. I'm working on that, and it's a
Wow.
self-help book for women.
Uh-huh. And
Yeah.
what is it about? Is it about a
It,
particular topic?
it explores themes that are dear to us women, but those that we seldom talk about because we are shy or because we are told not to. I'm still working on it, so it's still
All
work in
right.
progress. I don't know whether I'll be able to finish it this year. I've been working on it for 2 years now, all through
Wonderful,
the
wonderful.
yeah.
All right. So I will just I'm at the end of my rapid fire, and then I'll take questions from the viewers. We have a lot of questions for you. What takes more of your time, writing or editing?
Both, both. Both. It takes me a lot of time to write. I think editing is like I do it side by side, because I read my drafts so many times that I'm continuously you working on the edits as you go along, right? So it's
Oh,
not
okay.
specific. I don't. So some people, I think, they write first and then they revise
Yes.
and they edit. I don't do that. I read my draft multiple times and just keep editing as I go along every day. I work like that.
All
That's
right. So
how.
let me just take a question. This is from Lalita, and she's one of the winners of Seconds Later.
Yes. Lalita,
Can
I hope you like my work.
I'm sure she does. Can subplots be used to provide comic relief in an otherwise serious plot? A
Of
wonderful
course.
question, Lalita.
Yeah, wonderful question. Thank you, Lalita, for that question. I hope you like my book. And yes, if you have a plot, which is, let us say, you have a tragedy in the plot, or let's say it's a riches to rags story. Let's just assume you could have a subplot which creates sort of, some light-hearted moments for the readers. And why that is important is because otherwise, you are taking readers down a journey where it will create more sadness and despair. And that is, if you don't want to do that, yes, subplots can create that padding where they can bring some light-hearted moments and some comic relief to the main plot. Yes, of course, you can do that. Any
Sure,
examples,
that's.
Chandra? Any examples that you can think of?
I actually have never attempted a thriller, so I am more into serious, boring, dramatic kind of writing. But then I'm learning a lot, so probably I should, attempt it sometime. There, Lalita just replied to it. Waiting to read your book eagerly. It's on the way.
Thank you, Lalita. I look, do read me leave me a review on Goodreads and Amazon both. I'd request all the readers to leave me a good, can I say good review? Can I say good? Please do leave me a review on Amazon and Goodreads. No, would really appreciate that.
Okay, एकदम honest बात निकल गई आपके मुंह से. All right, so I have a question here from Monica. She wants to know, would it work if the subplot is independent of the main plot?
I haven't seen that sort of an example. See, it's just I believe a lot depends upon you as a writer and how good you are at your craft. I am just a beginner. This is what I would say. But there are masters of the craft who have done that, who've had subplots way different from the main plot, and still that does not take away from the main story. But
Right.
you have to, you could you could either do it right, or you can go absolutely wrong with that. And that's what this thing is all about, because we are there is so much to learning this, the whole craft of writing, that the more you go deeper into it, itna khazana hai, itna kuch hai. People have been able to do that. मैं तो अभी उस stage पे नहीं पहुंची.
No, but even then, the information that you're sharing with us based on your writing experience is definitely helping us all out here.
Thank you.
And आप भी पहुंच जाओगे वहां पे जहां पहुंचना है.
पहुंच जाओ.
All right, I have one more question here from Lalita. So this is, it's. Can you see it on your screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to read it?
No, go ahead.
Lalita says, we are often told that the reader must empathize with the character, and this happens best when the character has sufficient airtime. A secondary character may not get that much time. So, how do you create some sense of relatability for subplot protags? Uh, that's what is again about the craft, your craft as a writer, because everything about my subplot protagonists, the voice that they speak in, the clothes that they wear, the setting that they are sitting in, everything has to be so badly relatable. And I think there is no end to learning how to craft really good secondary characters as well. But I think that's what it is all about. Because yes, it is very important for the reader to empathize, to have
Right.
something for the secondary characters. Even अगर एक पुलिस वाला भी आता है who's got a very very official sort of attitude and all, उसके लिए भी एक empathy या कुछ तो create होना चाहिए. If you have flat characters, I'm sorry, it does not really fly with the readers at all. So I do genuinely make an effort to make my characters relatable, whether they are the main protagonist or subplot protagonist.
Right. I guess as a reader, I'm not able to relate to your characters or even empathize with them, I'm not going to really form a bond with the characters going on in the story. Right?
Like,
I'll not
for instance,
care about what's happening to them.
Let me ask you: were you able to relate to Cyrus's father?
Actually, in terms of relating, I could relate to chota aspects of many characters.
Okay,
There are
that's
some traits which speak more to me.
Yeah, that's what at the end of the day you may not be able to relate 100% to the character.
Right.
For instance, if a particular character is too promiscuous, if he or she is actually ready to go to bed with anybody, have one night stands as well, you may not be able to relate to it, but something in you would be evoked, like कुछ
Right.
anger
Exactly.
होएगा, resentment होएगी, गुस्सा आएगा, bitterness होएगी, कुछ तो होएगा. So that's important. As long as that's there, it's fine by me.
Yeah, as long as some emotion is being triggered, right? You may not always
Yes.
like the characters, but some emotion must be triggered.
Yes. For you to remember them.
Exactly. Thank you, Vani. You have shared such wonderful pointers with us. I've loved talking to you tonight, and I've learned so much actually. And I'm actually, excited to go and attempt writing a thriller, probably a shorter version of it, but then still. All right. So, on behalf of all of us here at Penmancy, I would like to wish you the very best, not only for Seconds Later, but all your future endeavors. Now that you mentioned you have another book coming up, wish you all the very best, Vani.
Thank you so much, Chandra. This has been a great opportunity to speak to you all. I love you all. I would request everybody who's listening to me out there to, the book is available on Amazon and Flipkart. Do not forget to leave me a review. I keep telling that to readers because
Yes.
as whenever we buy a book, we just check the reviews and all, and it's so important. So I make sure whenever I read a book, I always read, because I'm very active on Goodreads. Do connect with me on social media platforms, and yes, feel free to let me know what you your thoughts about the book and what you liked, what you did not like. I loved your review, for instance. I just loved it. It made my day. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yes,
And
I
yeah, it's been
absolutely agree with you. Reviews are very essential to the readers, and especially for Indian writers who are still trying to make their mark on the world. We all go with think of an author, and we always think of the Gora ones, rarely of our tribe. So somewhere that needs to be changed.
and thank you for the opportunity. I've really enjoyed
It
talking to
was
you.
our pleasure having you here. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
everybody, for joining us.
Thank you.
Good night.